Well, welcome back, listeners, to season 2 of Osmosis.
I can't believe we're back.
There's music now.
Yeah.
And
hopefully you enjoyed those beats.
It's a lovely Friday. It's a lovely Friday that we're recording. Normally we record on a Thursday. Today is a Friday because I had a work thing yesterday, which was a complete nightmare. It was actually quite fun, but I could have done without it because I was looking forward to recording. Welcome back to Osmosis Season 2 with me, Callum Morris, and with you,
Jamie McMillan.
Excellent.
I'm here. I'm back.
We are back.
I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be excellent.
So, probably a good place to start today is just to sort of run down what to expect from the season. So we've opted.
That's a good idea.
We've currently got a roadmap of 6 episodes for season 2.
Something like that.
And then we'll go back and iterate and make any changes that we need to change. 7 episodes. So 7 episodes, and then we'll go back and iterate. We are starting with a very special paper today, which I'm very excited for. Which I'll let Jamie introduce in a bit. And we've got some good ones coming up, I hope. One that we were looking at last season.
Hang on, which one do you mean?
I mean, I'm not going to say it because it will be a spoiler.
Right.
I'm not going to say what they are. I'll tell you later. I'll send you a WhatsApp.
Okay, all right.
But yeah,
that makes us have to commit, you know. And I'm so anti-committal.
I mean, we can commit if you want. I just don't want to dish the spoilers, you know. I'm quite excited to talk about it.
Secret sauce.
Yeah, exactly.
Sauce.
Cool. So, what are we talking about today, Jamie? Because I have a feeling I've made a boo-boo, but I'm going to let you introduce it.
You've made a boo-boo?
I have.
Oh, you haven't read the wrong paper, have you?
I'm not sure. I think I might have. But I think it'll be fine. So you introduce.
This is excellent. Okay, all right.
And then we'll just go with it.
Today we're looking at paper is in the show notes if you're interested. Thermometry of intermediate level waste containers using phosphor thermometry and thermal imaging. No, Callum, no!
I read the other one. I read the other Jamie McMillan paper.
I mean, I could probably do either. What one did you read?
I read, I'm just searching you up on the archive. I read Thermometry of intermediate level nuclear waste containers in multiple environmental conditions. I read that one. I read that one.
My God.
But I'm honestly,
we can do that one.
I'm perfectly happy to do this blind, mate. I'm perfectly happy to do this blind and talk about phosphothermometry and thermal imaging. I don't mind. Blind is how I live my life. I am down. And I feel like there's quite a lot of crossover, so hopefully I won't be completely unknown.
All right. More context then. Do you need a link, or have you got a link?
I have the correct one open because I came home and I looked on Obsidian and then I cried. And here we are.
Oh no!
Yeah, I have the link.
Yeah, that's epic. All right. So author. Well, that was me. I don't even have the paper open, so let's open the paper. So we're going for a narcissistic opening here, which is
which, by the way, I never pegged you as being a narcissist, Jamie.
I don't know if
I don't think you're a narcissist. You're too kind.
Maybe not.
You've got too much compassion.
Maybe not.
But I think
it's be good. Look at this sun.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Maybe.
You need some sunglasses, mate.
I left them downstairs. So we've got here thermometry of intermediate level waste containers using phosphor thermometry and thermal imaging. Authors include myself, Adam am I doing name drops? A. Greenan, W. Bond, M. Hayes, R. Simpson, G. Sutton, G. Machin, and then we've got two bonus from Sellafield, J. Jousey and A. Adamska. This is from back in my time in the lab. Oh my God. I can't deal with this, son.
Close the curtain.
Noxious.
That's better. Much better.
Yeah. So this is, back in the lab when I was working in the National Physical Laboratory. So anyway, that's the paper we're looking at today. It was published back in 2018. It didn't feel like it was that long ago. But
was this a master's? Was this just part of your work that you were doing?
Just a job.
Nice.
Just the job. Yeah.
Nice.
It was really good fun. I remember when we were So this is a piece of work that we did in the lab for Sellafield, and I remember when they came around the lab and we were like scoping it all out. Super fun. What do you know about Sellafield, Callum?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, I have a little bit of context, I imagine, because of the other paper. So I understand.
Yeah.
I imagine they keep the intermediate waste there.
Yeah, they got intermediate level waste. They store and reprocess waste from nuclear plants. So, like, we touched on this in plutonium, but like how nuclear plants work is you have lots of there's just lots of different components in a reactor. You've got fuel rods, which are like, whoa, they're plutonium, man. You've got things that are near fuel rods, and they're like really radioactive. But then you've got some other stuff like, I don't know, people's equipment that went near or in a highly radioactive environment. So there's a bunch of different like grades of radioactive waste.
I had a little bit of a read because I mean, as a GCSE level science teacher, we don't go into any of that detail. It's just whether something is or isn't dangerous, really. I didn't realize there was so much depth to the levels, but it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The stuff that the reactor's made out of is going to be more radioactive probably than the things that
nasty.
people are wearing.
Yeah. So there's different grades. So here we're looking at intermediate level waste. So I think off the top of my head, it probably says in the paper, but I can't quite remember. Oh, here we go. So it contains mostly nuclear reactor components, graphite, sludges from the treatment of radioactive liquid effluents. Ooh, that sounds delightful. But like for the most part, these are, we could think of these as like a big container. So like a meter diameter and a meter tall. So they're just like a big cylinder.
Full of stuff that's not very
and you
nice.
just shove a bunch of stuff in it. You pour some cement in it, it all sets, and then you put a lid on, stick it in a room, leave it there. And that's kind of it. And
I think
all going well.
Go on, all going well.
All going well. You put it in there, and it does nothing the next 100 years, and that's great. That's a success. What isn't a success is if the stuff that you put in is starting to do things. Like, I don't know, maybe it's getting really hot and it's gonna then explode. Or, I don't know, it's gonna get really hot and then start bulging and then go blah, 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 blah. So, like, there are things where you don't want it to do things. And ideally, you just have it.
This is kind of the crux of nuclear energy, right? This is the thing that people always talk about as being why it's bad, because the stuff, the waste products stay around for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, at least from my, like, I don't know, how I justified it is, they'd already done that part by the point I stepped in.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, sure. Helping out with a problem that's already a thing.
Yeah.
But yes, radioactive power, it makes some nasty things. I don't even know if the solutions we have currently are ideal. They're probably not.
Probably not, right?
Launch it into space, yeah, great idea. Shove it to the bottom of the sea, yeah, great idea.
I think all of those ideas are not very good ideas, right? But I suppose, like you say, if the problem exists and there's something you can do to assist the problem, I think it's morally fine. I don't think you're in a morally dark area here, Jamie. I don't really peg you as like a supervillain, so I think it'll be fine.
No, I'm the supervillain's apprentice. It's all right. So what we've got is, so we have these containers, and if in this scenario we care about monitoring like things getting hot or doing things, what we're trying to monitor is internal activity. So that like something getting hot or a hot thing moving around inside. They're things that we don't want. And so the proxy that we're using here is to mimic, well, not to mimic, but to measure that internal activity. We're going to measure the temperature of the outside. And that's where I come in, because I do temperature things.
And I can remember when you explained this to me many, many years ago when you were doing the work, you just said, I basically just am a thermometer guy.
I'm a thermometer guy.
We just measure stuff, measured some temperatures. And I always found it really interesting because the question you posed to me back in, I don't know, whenever it was we had that conversation was, you said, okay, how do you measure the temperature of something? I said, well, you look at it, obviously. Okay. But how does that tell you the temperature of the inside? Doesn't that just tell you the temperature of the surface?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's sort of where your work goes.
Yeah,
I
so
guess.
that was kind of the crux of the paper. So we were like, no, we got some science stuff going on here. We were looking at different thermometry techniques. We had two thermal cameras and different, like looking at different colours, like different wavelengths. We also had a phosphor thermometer, which is just a different technique. But like broadly speaking, we were taking, well, we were trying to heat the inside up and see if we could measure that heat increase from the outside.
Nice.
So, yeah, constructing the experiment is pretty straightforward. Take a drum, have a couple of thermometers and heaters in there, put the lid back on, warm it up, and do you see it warming up when you heat it up? And
I suppose what you
we're
do
at the
then
results
is,
already. That was speedy.
Yeah. And then you calibrate to see. I imagine you calibrate to see what the change is, like the perceived change on the outside of what the known change on the inside is, and you can use that almost like a standard, I guess. That becomes
Basically,
your ruler.
yes.
That becomes your ruler.
Yes. Oh, this is touching
I love
back
a
to season
ruler.
1.
I love
This
me
is
a
season 1
ruler.
throwbacks, man. Yes. Yeah. So you're building like a scale. Let's
point me to some interesting figures in the paper. I've got it open for the
let's have a look then.
videos and for myself.
Figures 6, 7, and 8.
Are we skipping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Let's touch back on that.
We'll touch back on them later. So I'm going to go to which one do you want me to go to? 6, 7, 8.
6, 7, and 8. Yeah.
Right. 6, 7, and 8 are.
And are you on the archive? Are you on the archive paper, or are you on the?
I'm on the
archive
paper.
Archive paper. Cool. Me too. All right. This was actually published. So if you follow the link, I don't know, maybe you can't find it, but this was published in. Was it Measurement we sent it to? I can't remember, but anyway, it's on the archive. But this is actually, it made it through pretty unscathed to a peer-reviewed journal, which is nice.
That's impressive.
It is nice. The paper that you looked at, that didn't make it through to a peer-reviewed journal.
Really? I would love to talk about that paper and the why.
Yeah. Hey, those could be the show notes. Show notes? Footnotes.
No,
yeah,
that's an episode, mate. That's an episode.
No, it's not an episode. We basically did the same thing, and that was the grief that they gave us. They're like, it's not that novel. You already done this.
Right.
We did it a bit differently. Right. So yeah, it's all right. So yeah, looking at 6, 7, 7, and 8. I mean, basically it's all you need, really. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at a plot that says bottom PRT temperature, which is like your internal temperature, and it's going up. Yep. And you've got a measured temperature from either like a thermal imager or a phosphor thermometer.
Is that LWIR temperature?
Yeah. That's a long wave infrared thermal imager. And it's a really boring graph because it just looks like there's some dots on the
just goes up, mate.
On the chart, and it goes up, and it's a straight line, and that's what we were looking for. Straight line. Hey, results.
I've never seen you so enthusiastic about a straight line, but so from the point of view of the criminal mastermind with all of the waste, they now know maybe I shouldn't call them criminal masterminds.
It's all right. I don't work there anymore. Hey.
Yeah, I'm sure they've got lawyers, bro.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Let's not call them criminal. Right, no more criminal masterminds. And anyway, that's a joke. Don't take it so seriously. But what this says is now you've made your ruler.
So now that we got these results, we've got a line. So what you could do is you could say, I'm going to look at the plot, trace along like at 30 degrees Celsius, and then you drop it down, and then that tells you the temperature of the inside. So like 30 degrees Celsius. If you take it to the line, it takes you to about 34 degrees Celsius. So if you measured 30 degrees Celsius on the outside, it's probably about 34 degrees on the inside. That's your ruler. That kind of works.
Could you do this with people?
We do this with people. We measure people's temperature by looking at their armpits. We look at their forehead. We look at their ear temperature. But we don't really care about what the temperature of somebody's ear is. We want to know what's your internal body temperature, because that probably means... So we do that all the time.
But when you use a thermometer, like an underarm thermometer or an under your tongue thermometer, it will say 37. Does that mean...
Are you asking whether it's...
So what I'm asking is that thermometer that you buy calibrated like this, in the sense that the temperature of my armpit isn't actually 37. It's just measuring that surface temperature and extrapolating the data.
No.
Let's
And I
do
think
that.
rightfully so.
Let's do that.
Well, I don't know. So
Come on,
there-
I
there'll
could be a
All right.
PhD too.
Segue into body temperature measurement. There are, in terms of methods to measure your body temperature, you've got oral,
All right,
oral in your ear.
with an
You've
A.
got
Oral
with an A.
What's
Hey!
happening? What was that? What was
Sorry,
that?
I made balloons on the screen. It's
What?
a Mac thing.
Are you celebrating the fact that we're back for season 2? Or is it because you said oral? I'm so confused right now. It's
I didn't even mean to
unbelievable.
do. It was an accident. So you've got oral and oral. You've got
Oral with an O and oral with an A.
armpit. You've got skin. You arguably you have inner canthi, the little like bobbly bit in your eye.
Ooh, can you measure a temperature in there?
If you use like a thermal imager and look at that bit there, that's
Really?
reportedly a decent thing to look at.
I pictured like putting a probe in there. I was like, that doesn't sound comfy.
You don't want to do that. Non-contact, man. Non-contact. That's my realm. You could do actual internal, so I could eat a thermometer. 6. And then you got the classic.
What was that?
Your
That's
rectal.
bumhole. Why?
Hey, there's probably more, but like there's like at least 8 ways to measure temperature. All the while, all you want
Excuse me?
is internal body temperature.
I'm sorry. Can you just do the noise one more time? Oh my god. Oh my god. Was this a good idea? Should we have just stopped while we were ahead? Jesus.
I told you it was a segue.
Woo!
Anyway, so yes, there's body temperature. I guess you could, but there's probably enough physiological variation between person to person that the difference between your inner internal temperature and your, like, say, armpit temperature, probably not comparable. Like, maybe I just went for a run and I'm super sweaty, and now, like, you can't account for that with a different ruler or with the same ruler. Yeah, you could, but no, you couldn't. There's quite a lot of physiological variation.
Fair enough.
Yeah, body temperature. It's really hard to measure. Like, even now, it's really hard.
I mean, it can't be that hard. You can buy a thermometer for like a £5. That's good enough, isn't it? Laughs in PhD physicist.
Screams internally, maybe.
It's easy.
Yeah, it is
Just
easy.
bish bash bosh, buy one of those guns. Beep. You know, like
This
we
is
had
giving
in
me
COVID.
flashbacks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is really giving me flashbacks.
Yeah? Why?
Oh, it's painful, man. You know what? Body temperature, it's a solved thing. COVID, I was in the lab during the vid doing calibration of, like, people wanting to do thermal images for, like, oh, man. The message at the time was, yeah, let's use a thermal imager. Let's measure everyone's temperature. And then very quickly, the message changed to, maybe just look at their head and do they look warm? Yeah, all right. Let's go with that.
That's what I mean. This takes me back to pizza with touching the baby's head.
Yeah.
Are you feeling a bit warmer
really
than
good.
me?
But that was like a change in the narrative during early vid.
Yeah. It was
Yeah, it's tricky.
It was not a
It
good
needs
time.
more study.
Yeah.
Bad time.
Let's move swiftly on before I cry.
But what we can do for rulers is you can do it for these drums, because they're pretty standard between, drum to drum to drum. So the idea is, if you've got that ruler now, when you have a warehouse of 1 million containers, then rather than having to take every container, open it up, ooh, it's all right, looks good in there. You could just pull it out, and you can just look at it with a thermal imager or the phosphor thermometer, and you can look at it and say, yeah, it looks pretty good. So it just speeds up that process, means you don't have to open things up.
And you don't want to be opening up nuclear waste. I don't think
No,
that
you don't
sounds
do
like
that.
a good plan for anyone
Yeah,
involved.
it's a good idea. And like, you could just leave it. You could take your off the shelf thermometer and look at it and say, does it look hot? But I guess, from the perspective of us at the time being metrologists, was it gives more value to have it like calibrated and traceable. So if you have your measured temperature that you're confident on, and then you shove it back into the warehouse, come back to it 2 years later, and then you take another temperature measurement, being able to like compare those two, like if they weren't traceable and calibrated, then you wouldn't be able to make that comparison. That was the secret sauce there.
I don't like it when you say secret sauce.
Secret sauce.
It's like your catchphrase, and it makes me a bit uncomfortable every time.
Only for the episode, right?
It's two things. It's secret sauce and meat and potatoes, I think, are your catchphrases.
Actually, yeah, no, meat and potatoes. So meat and potatoes of the paper, building this ruler.
Nice. Excellent ruler. Point me to something else.
All right.
I'm just going to do a time check. I'm at 24 minutes recorded, so we're good. So part of season 2 is we had like very inconsistent episode lengths last in our sort of pilot season, so we're aiming for 40 minutes, and we've said we're not going over it. So if we go over it,
feels digestible.
There'll be some cutting. Yeah, if it's digestible.
What's out on it, you know?
Yeah.
Tell us if you like long.
Maybe you like us just chatting absolute rubbish. Point me to something else cool in your paper, Jamie.
Let's have a look at some of the pretty pictures. Like, if you just keep going down from here, you've got a boring uncertainty table and some more straight lines. So let's circle back up. We can have a look at figure 3.
Figure 3, the schematic. This was in your other paper. You did just copy your previous work. Even I can see that.
I spent so long on that figure. It was a really good figure to waste and not reuse.
I feel like that sometimes. I made the thing. Let me keep using it.
Actually, if you do an accurate comparison, you'll see that some of the thermometer positions move.
The thermometer missions have moved. But I remember the dewatering tubes, so...
Yeah, they were there. So, looking at this, just to give a bit more context on like what this drum looks like. So this was... So yeah, it's about like meter by meter cylinder type thing. But what I have vivid memories of is taking the lid off for the one that we had. It was empty, so it didn't have gubbins in it. It was pretty empty. And then climbing in. Because this needed instrumenting up.
And you might not realise it if you're an audio listener or even if you're a video listener, but there is a reason why up until he had a baby, called him Baby Jamie. He's a very little man, so I imagine he fitted in quite nicely. Tell me, did your colleagues put the lid on?
I can't remember. I don't think we did.
Do you remember that time in school where we put... Did you get put in a suitcase?
Yes, I got put in a suitcase.
It was you that got put in the suitcase! Bullying.
I didn't know.
No, don't say any names. Don't say any... I think it might have been. I don't know if it was him or if it was you.
Let's say both.
No identifiable information given out there. Yeah.
Tiny lads.
Little boys. Yeah. Little boys.
Yeah, so I fitted in there. That was good.
That's amazing.
I got good memories of that. So like climbing in there, sticking a couple of thermometers in.
So those are your PRTs, right?
Yeah. PRTs are platinum resistance thermometers. There are different thermometer types. They're pretty good.
So why? So what? I am a layman in terms of thermometers. Why did you choose platinum resistant thermometers and not? I don't know.
I mean, I could just say because they're well good in it.
But
or
why?
I could point you to the ISO standard that tells you like their general tolerances, and if you compare them to thermocouples, they're pretty good.
What's a thermocouple?
So different types of thermometers. So I guess let's go with 3 thermometers. So the thermometer that people are probably not familiar with, but are the most prevalent, would be a thermistor. So this might be something in your oven. So if you turn your like temperature up and you hear it click, that's like based on a... Well, actually, is that a thermistor? Maybe not. But that'll be like a thermistor thermometer. They're super cheap.
It's just a component.
Fairly repeatable. They're I think they're meant to be really repeatable. So like if you always go to the same like setting.
Which you do with an oven. It's normally
they
180.
always trigger at the same number, but what they're not great at is that temperature actually 262.3 degrees Celsius. Like, what is the actual number? So I think they're good and cheap and repeatable, but not accurate. Second thermometer is a thermocouple. So this is the Seebeck effect. It's a Seebeck effect. If I took two wires of different alloys, what are the typical ones? Rhodium iron.
Do you want me to Google it so that we get the science correct?
You can do some research.
What's it called?
Thermocouple. So you can take two different iron alloys, but there's a bunch.
So the top hit on Google from processparameterslimited.co.uk, don't know what that is, says a thermocouple is a device for measuring temperature.
Got it.
It says it comprises two dissimilar metallic wires joined together to form a junction. When the junction is heated or cooled, a voltage is generated in the circuit of the thermocouple, which can be measured, and this corresponds to temperature. I'm going to get a diagram up as well, I guess. It looks like a pretty simple
So you got these two metals. So you can do a bunch of different combinations, and they give you different temperature ranges, different sensitivities. And the idea is that voltage that's generated is proportional to the temperature.
Yeah.
And
I imagine that's very consistent as well. Like, I imagine
it's a linear relationship.
More expensive, but also more accurate than a thermistor. I imagine.
Yeah, so different types. You've got that's Seebeck effect doing that thing.
Spell that for me.
The thermocouples are really good. Seebeck. You should find it on the thermocouple page, but SEEBECK. Seebeck.
A phenomenon in which temperature difference between two dissimilar electrical conductors or semiconductors produces a voltage. It's just okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. So that's Seebeck effect. And then platinum resistance thermometers, third type of thermometer, is actually probably quite. And these are contact thermometers, I should say. So you might be familiar with like pointy clicky thermometers, also thermometers, but different. Platinum resistance thermometer. You're probably familiar with it from like the point shove in my meat thermometer. So, like your kitchen thermometer is likely a resistance thermometer. That's what a PRT is. A platinum resistance thermometer.
Sorry, I'm just gonna repeat. You said point and shove in my meat thermometer.
Yeah.
I love
that.
You
don't have one of them.
Gee, I do have one of them. I've never called it that though. But you're right. I shove it in my meat to determine the internal temperature to make sure I don't.
What else do you use it for?
Salmonella. That's it.
That's it. Yeah,
that's it. I shove it in my meat.
I don't know what else I would use it for. I'm not doing sugar things. Nothing else.
I'm thinking. Would you? Cake? Is this a similar thermometer to what you might use, like an immersion thermometer in the lab at school when you do like specific heat capacity? If I want to put a thermometer inside a block of aluminium or copper,
probably.
Yeah.
You could use either thermocouple or a resistance thermometer in principle for that.
Right.
But at least how a resistance thermometer works is if you have like a coil, and that's like in your stick, and you measure the resistance of that coil.
Yeah.
Or measuring stick. You measure your resistance, and it'll be a number. And if you change the temperature, the resistance changes. And again, it's really linear. I think actually, it might not be linear. I think it's linear, and I think that's why it's good. It's like at least
linear
like
or not, it's just a reliable relationship.
It's really good. Yeah. It's probably similar to your immersion thermometer.
Nice.
What do you connect your thermometer to in the lab?
What do you mean?
Now, how do you see the number from it?
I just look on the thermometer. Wait, no, that's definitely. I'm thinking of an immersion heater then. I'm not thinking of a thermometer at all. Because the thermometers we use in school are just the ones with the red line, so they're definitely not that. That's just a.
Fourth type.
Is that just? So I actually don't know how they work. I'm assuming it's just a liquid that changes its, or some sort of substance that changes its volume with temperature.
Yeah. That's just coefficient of thermal expansion.
Yeah. So I remember
So
one day in university, someone dropped a mercury thermometer and it smashed in a fume hood. Yeah, and we had to evacuate. It was all very serious, and I was
at least it was in a
fuming.
fume hood.
Yeah,
That's great.
they did smash it in a fume hood, which was really thoughtful of them.
And you were fuming.
I mean, on the one hand, I was fuming. On the other hand, lab was cancelled. I went to the pub. It was great. Yeah. We waited around outside
Nice.
for 45 minutes. Nothing happened, so that was that. Off we popped. Pub lunch.
Nice. That sounds like a great end to the day.
Yeah, and it was probably only halfway through the day.
Just trying to think of the poor health and safety assistants who had to, fill out the forms. How did this happen? What safety procedures do we now need?
I have no idea how it happened, but yeah.
Were you still able to use those thermometers afterwards?
Mercury thermometers? I believe we still had a few. I don't think they got banned or anything.
Yeah.
It would seem weird for them to be banned in a university lab, wouldn't it? Like, surely a university student should be able to use a thermometer safely.
I don't know. Thermocouple's pretty cheap. You'd use that.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's true. To
Maybe.
be fair. I don't know. Maybe they liked it.
Sheathing. Nice, yeah, fourth type. Mercury thermometers. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's just a thermal expansion things. Heat something up, it gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
You stick it in a well-defined
space
volume.
Yep. What's figure 4?
Do you know? Figure 4.
I keep looking at this picture and we're just chatting and I want to know what it is. I could just read underneath.
All right, so this is so we were looking at this with two thermometers. So a phosphor thermometer, which is like a tube that shines a red light, that shines a blue light, and measures a red light, and that measures temperature.
Okay.
And we were also measuring with a thermal imager. So that's a picture of a thermal imager.
Okay.
Specifically, so if we look at figure 3 again, so of this like big container, rather than looking at the sides or the walls, you could have done that, and we had done it in previous work. We instead looked on the top, thinking like heat rises, that sort of thing. As well as there was a natty like structure on the top of the lid, like a honeycomb kind of arrangement. So if you're looking at this lid, like maybe it's, I don't know, a foot? No, it's like as wide as a ruler. And it's a lot of little circles arranged in like a like honeycomb type grid. And the reason we cared about that is because emissivity things, emissivity things.
Don't know what that word means.
It made our measurement easier or less challenging.
Okay.
Minimized error.
Right.
And there's like a central row, which we had painted with phosphor. So the phosphor thermometer needed phosphor on there, and that's how that worked. But conveniently, it made them higher emissivity. It changed the colour of them.
What's that word that you're saying? Say that word again. I want to spell it. I've never heard this word.
Emissivity. Have I not mentioned it before? I'm sure I mentioned it in Pizza at least. Emissivity is, the way I like to describe it is reflectivity? If I intuitively, if I say reflectivity, does that mean anything to you? How reflective is a thing?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's the mirror. That's quite reflective.
Yeah.
Yeah. And emissivity is the opposite to that.
So
if something's really reflective, it's got a really low emissivity.
There is a crying child in the background. Are you okay?
I think it's going to stick. Yeah,
okay, fine. All right, as long as we're okay. But for the record, to be completely honest with you, we're about to hit 40 minutes of recording time, so we've got about 5 left. Let's
wrap this up then.
Yeah.
So we got a honeycomb. We were looking at an X. It had a high emissivity. That means it's emitting more from its surface rather than like reflecting stuff from around it.
Which is more useful if you're interested in the temperature, right? You want to see the emissions, not the reflections.
You want to see the temperature of that thing that I'm looking at and not of everything around it.
Yeah.
Is often how I'd like to think about it. So that's that was what we were looking at, and we were doing our thermal imager measurements of that, like circles, honeycomb circles.
Perfect.
So what have we done? We've done the method. We used a thermal imager and a phosphor thermometer to point at some things, measure some temperature, warm things up on the inside. Things got warmer. We got a straight line. That built our ruler up. That was epic. That was basically the results. We got a straight line, and that was ideal.
Yep.
Now, Section 5, we looked at uncertainty budget. Man, what a dry topic. There's a table 1, a couple of pages down. And that is an uncertainty budget.
Table 1. Sources, is this
Table
sources
1.
of uncertainty, estimate,
Yeah. Yeah. This is my bread and butter.
That's a lot of numbers, mate.
You don't want that. Anyway.
What's K equals 2? That was in your other one.
Confidence interval. How confident are you that uncertainty covers the range of possible uncertainty?
Right.
So I could say K equals 1, like make that number a bit smaller, or I could make that number a bit bigger and say, like, statistically speaking, it's going to be more representative of my error or uncertainty. Yeah. Bread and butter, being from a national metrology lab, we were, hot on our uncertainty budget. Nothing too crazy there. Yeah. But actually, if you, I think, I from like a hit retrospective perspective, I quite like looking back through my previous papers at like the evolution of my uncertainty budget. Like my, this isn't my first paper, but my first paper. If you look at the uncertainty budget for that, it's like, oh, that's so cute. And then you go to this one, you're like, oh, it's a bit better. But like I look at it now, I'm like, man, that's garbage. And now,
so what
and then
makes
you look
this
at
uncertainty budget garbage? Because
uncertainty's an art form. Like
I love that you said
as
that.
Presented, it is fine. Like it's saying, I'm considering these things. This is how big these things are, and therefore my uncertainty is this. But it's an art form. Like maybe I didn't know this other thing was a thing.
I love that you describe that as art. Because, right, this is a final thoughts moment because we do need to wrap up if we're going to stay in time. Seriously, because I feel like, so what game have I been playing recently? What's it called? Humankind. I've been playing Humankind, and when you like unlock philosophy, it says, what's the quote? I wonder if I can find it quickly. Let me start that again. This is a lovely point to stop because you described it as art, and like I really think that when you, and this is a little, and the reason why I was going to bring up the Humankind quote because it's a little bit like it's like a science philosophy angle, right? The idea that like knowledge is beautiful and you can take joy in knowledge, and I just thought that was a really nice little bit of reflection from you there. I thought that was amazing. I enjoyed hearing it come from your mouth.
Nice.
That's my final thought. I like this. I've enjoyed this a lot because obviously I know a little bit about your research, but I've never really dug into your papers. And now I've kind of looked at 2 of them. Although they are both the same, so it's fine. But yeah, no, it was good. What are your final thoughts?
Nice. Final thoughts. Yeah, this was a fun one this week. I was coming in here with more the try to sell my research angle as opposed to the critiques. I don't know. I found it hard to critique myself. But mostly, like,
my biggest criticism is the fact that you use the same diagrams.
Yeah, but it's because they're so nice.
It's not how it works, mate. No, they're very nice.
Okay, all right. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Do you think you sold it to the people? Do you think you sold it to the people?
No, it's such a dry topic, but man, I love it.
I think it's a great topic.
I enjoy it.
I think if you're a nerd, this is a great topic. And I think if anyone's watching this and isn't a nerd, what are you doing? You're definitely a nerd. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah, I enjoyed this. This was great research. I enjoyed it at the time. It's pretty foundational to like my thesis as well. If you follow the arc of we had this research to start off with, and then the next chunk was looking at the paper that you read about multiple environments, which was do the same research or do the same experiment, but in like a giant environmental chamber. Like that was actually a really fun part about that. You
did like humidity and stuff in the other paper.
Yeah, we had it's a giant room, and you changed the temperature from like really, really cold to really hot. That was entertaining. And then you got a transition from intermediate level waste to, what do they call it? more radioactive waste. Did a paper on that, and that was basically my thesis. Just doing temperature measurement of radioactive things.
Actually, while I was looking on your name up in archive, I did read the start of your doctorate thesis today. And I might actually just bring it up and share your acknowledgements because I thought they were really nice. Where is it?
Thanks.
PhD thesis.
Graceful
Now,
thermal
at
imaging.
this point, it is just narcissism, by the way, but I'll let it slide. Yeah, you've written. So Jamie has written, the tangible output from this doctorate pales when compared to the joy and value from the journey. The countless catch-ups and brainstorming with the people I care about are the most important results from my research. And I thought that was the most beautiful thing I've ever read, and it made me super happy.
Well, thanks, man. Well, like, for the most part, I don't know, have you read many thesis acknowledgements?
No!
The default is, you go into real detail, you thank all your family, you thank all your friends, you give lots of name drops. I just couldn't be asked.
Well,
I could be asked, but at the same point, I was like, there's just so much more to it than just calling out a bunch of names.
Yep.
It's
more
really
cerebral than that. It's more cerebral than that.
Yeah.
It's never the destination, and it's always the journey.
My supervisors didn't like it.
Didn't they? Your supervisors. I will not badmouth them, and I don't know who they are, but I guarantee they were gammon.
Maybe.
You will neither confirm nor deny.
He was a good supervisor.
Right, I retract that statement. It has been great. So, what's the timer on the OBS? 48. We're wrapping up. We have to cut. We're cutting minutes out of this. Guys, if you are interested, please check out the website. We have worked on. Well, I say we. Jamie has worked on website in this downtime while I made a little funny song. And his website is amazing. So please go and check it out. He did it all himself. It's phenomenal.
It's pretty functional. It does the job.
It's been a little project I know of yours, a little passion project, and it looks really professional, and you can see some hilarious photos of Jamie and I when we were kids.
You can,
there,
yes.
Which is that's got to be worth a click.
That's nice. That's worth a visit.
Yeah. Aside from that,
people find us normally.
Normal podcast places. I mean, nothing's different, right? But we are hosting the RSS ourselves now. I say we. You are hosting.
Yeah, nothing's different.
Nothing's different. So find us in the same places. If you like to watch, so I know my sister really likes to watch on a second screen while she's working. Find us on YouTube. Happy days. You can see us there as well if you want to see our pretty little faces.
But this has been great. Bring on season 2.
I'm very excited.
I've enjoyed myself. Thanks, Callum.
We'll see you next week, guys.
We'll see you soon.
Excellent. Thank you.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.